and summarize the path for this week is I'm going to collect validation and confirmation of all of the original founders and holders, and I'm going to give them, a time box. So I'm going to say, at this period of time, and then at that period of time when they're prepared and they're ready, their schedule's been oriented properly, I get on with them. I say, hey, here's an address. Here's the number that you need to send. It's not going to be a number of fiat significance. Some of it might be in our token, like, a billion something, right? But that number is going to be random and it's not going to be publicly distributed. I'm just going to give it to them right in that session, right? So doing this throughout the week will allow us to know, here are all of the addresses that are associated to founders, right? And that's going to give us a really strong foundation to know what amount of circulation is still in the founders, and then we're going to lock it, right? So, and then the other significant recap is the process of doing that is concurrent to me onboarding this company Tokenomics and my contact there, Andrew. So they're a verified public blockchain auditing company. I don't know what type of regulations they fall under, but they have a first-party relationship with Coinbase. So I would assume they are beholden to some type of contractual and legal and compliance obligations. That's not my immediate domain, even though I am looking to fund a few blockchain auditing companies. So that is, those are the two pieces of the utmost significance that I can address today. In addition to, we're gonna lock down social today, and those that we cannot confirm that we've locked down will be disowned, right? And then the ones that we can confirm will be linked to our website. So that way, there is always a provable chain of custody, so to speak, for any public dissemination of information, right? And had this been established from the beginning, clearly that would not have been nearly as difficult of a process. But doing all of this on the fly, much more difficult, right? So I want to make sure that, like, the simplest step is, we're not ghosting, but I mean go dark by saying, hey, on each official channel, we're going to say from now on, go to the website until we figured out how to do this properly. I don't think there's any simpler, clearer process, because then it should be, utterly certain for everybody. If you want updates, you go to the site, the end, right? So the results of that audit will be public. Tokenomics' relationship will be public once we have, we've navigated what type of contractual relationship they're going to be looking for. So I opened the door to that loosely. I brought up the conversation on Saturday, and they're supposed to be getting me some documents over today that legal will review. We do have several different attorneys involved, but their involvement is also not defined because of how many different elements there are here, right? So you got to think it like, Paul and Mayweather, they've got their teams that have got attorneys, and there's just a lot floating around there, right? So the simplest things that I can do is say, how many founders do we have? What holdings do they have? And what portion of the float and the equity does that represent, right? Then we know, hey, when we lock this, if that's 60%, if that's 70%, it's 45, 40%, I can't be certain, but I can be certain throughout this week as we go through that validation process. And my pledge to the community, of course, is not just making these things easier to understand and interact with, but like I want to show you exactly the process that I go through myself in order to confirm and validate this information, right? Because that is, once again, the founding function of a blockchain is that everything can be trustless. You are not beholden to someone else saying, hey, this was done. It is either there or it is not, right? And everything else is an abstraction, above or below that, right? So yeah, so we're locking down social, we're bringing in an audit, we're confirming founders' positions, and then subsequently locking that. I think that's a good recap so far, right? So stepping past that, we can now move to more of the functional, technical, and tokenomic goals that we have. And what I'm going to say is, like, so far what I've laid out, those are all expectations for this week, right? And the results and
Josh,
speed.
just real
Yes.
quick. I already had a couple messages from people that I'm friends with. They want to know who you are and the role that you have, being that new to the group and everything like that. And we have a ton of people listening right now that may not know your actual position. And if you just want to go over that real quick and then go into the tokenomics that are coming up.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for that. So quick background on me. You can go through announcements and you can see the post and introduction I've made to the community. And I use the term, hey, I'm in leadership. That's pretty ambiguous, and that was very intentional, because I think a dozen different times I had basically asked that question. And I was given a position in this token for my involvement. Otherwise, I don't think I would have made it this far. So like, I'll be transparent about that. And throughout this week, once everything is disclosed, I'll be like, here's what's going on. Here's how much I'm holding. Here's where it's right, just like everybody else. We don't have titles, and it's possible that we could move to have titles, but there are a ton of potential conflicts there. Because you got to say that, if I say that I'm, director of something, or, any other type of conflation of traditional title, like an executive, for example, now that lends more credibility to the argument that we're a security, which we are absolutely not. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a lawyer. The same thing that we've heard day in, day out, right? So you can think of me like any other YouTuber who has a position here, who is just addressing the things as I see it. And now I have a firsthand relationship and direct line of communication to every single original member, right? So that is the simplest and most accurate answer I can give to that question. And I would like to think that, in the nature of these types of decentralized organizations, and there's another Discord. I think we have 600, 700 deep. It's kind of like a DeFi Discord. I had mentioned that last night, where my involvement, I'm an admin there now. It hasn't been active for well over a month. But my involvement was like off of a Reddit comment. And so someone else's Reddit post had gone viral. So I joined that Discord. They had, like, it was from Wall Street Bets, right during the heat of everything in the fallout of GameStop, and everybody, the new broker dealer the capital requirements, and the adjustments of risk tolerance from the DTCC. Anyway, so I showed up to that group where we, in like the course of like an hour, they had garnered something like, I don't know, 200, 250 new people, and there was like 50 people showing up every 20, 30 minutes. And one of the original 3 people that started that Discord, that had the relationship with Claire, who was the one who had the post that gained a lot of traction, had posted in like the announcements, hey, does anyone have experience with like operations and PR, right? So I had mentioned, hey, like, my background is in enterprise marketing. I did a bunch of the DevOps there, and then I've got a pretty extensive background in venture capital and a couple other industries, and I like to think I have a pretty unique perspective on a lot of things, having been in crypto since 2011, having kind of been left all social in 2013. So anyway, with that said, so I responded to them. They brought me into like the admin lounge where they had a couple people in voice, and it was a very similar situation that we had with this team on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? Where you got so many people that are very passionate, that have a wealth of domain knowledge and expertise that overlaps and complements other members of the team. There's there's a lot there, a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and just no structure, right? This is not a new phenomena. This is probably one of the most regular and common challenges of any decentralized organization, and that's why I got long-winded in that Reddit post, as a result of trying to find the best way of summarizing how these trends are very much human nature, and we can reduce them to components, and we can address those components from a collection of angles, and that's what operations is, right? But it is an evolving process, and if you're going to be diplomatic, if you're going to be considerate of many people's perspectives, it takes a little time, right? So I thank everybody that's here for giving me their time to listen and to understand the state of affairs. But I will always do my best to understand I know what I can't know, and the path to resolving that dissonance is what I will try to lay out, and that's the closest to a roadmap that I think is plausible and feasible right now, right? So once again, no titles, but a decentralized organization is ideally some form of meritocracy, right? And so meritocracy basically being actions speak volumes, right? And it just so happens that in a situation where everyone is acting very quickly, the encapsulation of available actions with words happens to be an action in of itself, right? So what I'm attempting to do is demonstrate that I believe to have a clear and comprehensive perspective on all of the dimensions that are in play in this scenario, right? And then I would approach them from their composite domains. So we have, the technical characteristics, we have the financial characteristics, we have the social and sentiment characteristics, we have the flow and distribution of information, and then we have all of the operational and logistical considerations with these dynamic relationships that were never properly defined, right? I mean, again, the simplest explanation here is that a couple people whipped this up and it took off well before they expected to, and then everyone jumped on, and no one ever took the time to refactor the technical debt, right? I mean, and this is the nature of anything that gains momentum, and I cap the progress on so many other projects that I'm involved in for specifically these reasons, and I receive a fair amount of pushback, right? People want to go quicker, and I understand and empathize with that energy, but there is, obviously provable reasons why going slower in the beginning is more valuable, and it's to lay down these types of foundations to make sure everybody is on the same page, right? And so then I see SafeMoon as a very common example of what people have a lot of confidence in because of how they have gone about their process from the beginning. And I actually, I had the opportunity to meet the SafeMoon founder a few weeks ago at the Intercontinental at another crypto event then. So we had a nice discussion about that. And yeah, I would like to emulate many of their qualities, right? So opening up the development process to be open source and transparent, that's absolutely an agenda item. I'm going to say, if it's possible for us to do that this week, great. But the audit will serve the same function, right? So the result of that audit will be from an external organization that has a proven relationship and track record, kind of at one of the best in class, so to speak. And that's a great thing to work off of, right? That audit, I'm not super familiar, but may or may not produce the financial composite of the founder shares, right? Or equity or positions or whatever language you'd like to use. And that's why I'm trying to also address that concurrently by saying, here is the methodology of how I will prove, so to speak, and that will be a validated process that everyone can verify on chain. Here are the addresses that have confirmed to me and confirmed to the public that they are founders or that they are original investors, and then all of that will then be locked, right? So I've heard a bunch of dialogue and discourse around 3 months not being long enough. And the simple answer I have here is that I think it's inefficient. It's inefficient to try and look further out than you've been around, right? And so 3 months is basically double the length of time that Emax has been around, if not even further. And so looking beyond 3 months, 6 months, when there are, we should be looking at layer 2, right? And so like the number of things that are gonna be restructured and changed is going to be significant. So like that's, I mean, once again, like I'll direct everyone to the Reddit post, because I mean, there are many significant examples of best intentions in locking that contributed to financial ruin for investors, right? So that is a challenging dilemma, the duration of time locking. And if you go on like, I think is it either DeFi Wiki, or I mean, you go anywhere where they document, here are some examples of time locking and here are some best practices from a development perspective. Locking for greater than, a proportional amount of time to the ramp up presents new potential difficulties and vulnerabilities from a protocol perspective, right? So the more technical people will be able to dive in and recognize, it's possible that if, for example, if the devs that have been working on the project so far have had this much issue upgrading to Unibot v3, then they sure as hell are going to have, a huge amount of personal obligation and liability in locking any of these assets for a period of time where the upgrades to the protocol could be so significant where those assets are now irretrievable, right? So I mean, like that is the simplest answer and response I have to defining a range beyond 3 months, because you also have to then orbit around and look at it from the angle of many of these investors don't know any of this, right? Or they do now, but they never knew any of this when they contributed real capital. So, we are also obliged to make sure that the commitments we make are symmetrical for the founders, right? And what I mean by that is everyone agrees to the same terms, right? So there is no, potential for internal conflict stemming from someone having locked for longer or lesser or a different portion. So ideally, this is kind of an all or nothing scenario, and I think that everyone, I did a poll, and I know at least the original dozen or so founders are all on board to lock 100% of their holdings for a minimum of 3 months. And I think that working with that as a floor gives us at least a few weeks of stability, because in the course of this week, if I'm able to learn and prove to the community, hey, we hold 50, 60, 70% afloat, and all of that will be locked for 3 months. Well, now we know that there is a maximum liquidity of 30, 40%. And then we deploy the new tokenomics. So we know that there will be a new deflationary element in those transactions of the remaining 30%. Now there is a lot more that is clearly and transparently defined, and that will be complemented by the results of the audit. And only then does it make sense for us to start considering other feature requests, right? So we had a significant number of different merchants and vendors that we still have good relationships with, and some of those relationships are a little bit more fractured than others. And I don't think that there's any merit in trying to restore the confidence in those relationships until we can prove on chain that the underlying assets are not hypothecated, right? And so we should be able to do those clear goals this week. So now, okay, it looks like we've kind of doubled in size again. So I'll recap from the beginning. This week, I'm going to make sure that all of the original founders, and I'm going to do little time blocks with them. I'm going to give them, an address that wasn't publicly disclosed. I'm going to give them, a number of Emax, like, 11257, something, right? A random number where no one else should know. And I'm going to say, you need to send this number to this address in this time frame, right? And I won't reveal that address until that time frame becomes. So over the course of this week, I should collect certain and provable information on all of the wallets, and by association, their holders and the founders in the first degree of separation from the founders, the original network. I should be able to collect all of that information and prove it and say, here is how much of this asset we still have in control. Because there were other distributions made. I mean, this fight and this entire weekend had a lot of prominence and a lot of volume, right? So no one person or even collection of people can say with any reasonable degree of certainty what that circulation looks like. So then there's all kinds of there's a lot of false dichotomies out there where it's us versus the whales, or but like large sell orders can be simulated, or they could very well be sell-offs for some of the early adversaries that acquired 15, 20, 30% of all of the circulation in the first week or so before enough liquidity was locked in the ETH pair to make it disadvantageous for them to do so, right? And so we haven't even been able to dig into all the depth of those transactions yet. One of my other partners, Ari, he big time data scientist and got just enormous resources behind him. Like, we can do a magnificent amount of deconstruction looking backwards. But this is not the time to look backwards, right? This is the time to look at this week and say, like, what are the simplest things that we can do this week to make proofs that are verifiable on chain? So then the other thing to recap from earlier for those that have recently showed up, we're going to lock down all the social, and anything that we cannot lock down today, we disassociate with, right? So we're going to disown any platform that we do not have absolute first party control over today. And this should alleviate the majority of concerns and issues with all of the the phishing attempts, the fake and scam groups, and the other social adversaries that are kind of in play, because the last thing we'll do is we'll take the social channels that we do own and prove today, and we will basically, any posts there will also be posted on the website, just using some extensions. And so then, there will be a provable chain of custody in any public announcement. And I think that's also obviously of paramount importance here. So that way, as we have incremental updates on the progress of the audit, on the progress of understanding how much the founders and the initial first party investors hold, and the development of these new tokenomics and features, we'll be able to update you guys incrementally through a channel that is verifiable, right? I think that should be those are the main bullet points. Jed, did you have anything else that came to the top of the feed that you want to bring up before I get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty on the technical roadmap? Maybe Jed stepped away. Give me 30 seconds. I got to go ahead and.
No, I stepped away for a minute. So, I mean, I think what a lot of the people are waiting for is when the tokenomics is going to be in play. It was a little long-winded, but kind of to recap, a recap is we're going to find out how much the owners hold, which will be locked as well with the locked liquidity, showing that there's X amount that can't be moved. We'll give you the addresses. If they sell, call us out on it, which they're not going to because it'll be locked. Josh is going to be getting all that information from them this week. Basically, that's kind of what all that is leading to. The next is like the tokenomics in the upcoming days. I think it should be implemented. So we'll touch on that and then we'll start asking some questions here. Because I feel like a lot of people have either sent me messages, calls, or texts. They want to know some clarification on things. So if you can talk about the tokenomics real quick, and then we'll possibly take some questions.
Sure. Yeah. So of the three, the 3% burn, obviously the easiest to implement. It's just a one directional transaction to a dead wallet, right? That involves what amount to three components or segments. So one is going and putting an address out there and then renouncing the ownership of it. So that's very standardized. That's basically out of the box, right? The next component is applying that the sending of 3% of a transaction to that dead address. And once again, that's fairly out of the box, right? In order to do that, that is now an update that we must apply using the beacon or the proxy. And so then doing that, could encounter some issues, which is why I want to make sure that as we do these new features, that comes following the output of the audit, right? Because what we really need to know first and foremost is like, where do things stand? Are there any trips or flags or issues, right? I mean, any devs will know that like Solidity doesn't use, like, they start all of their versioning with a 0 to indicate the rapid change of pace, right, and versioning. So also all of the implementation of these features needs to be done from an understanding of interactivity with Uniswap v3 and not v2. And I have a fair expectation that there are some very simple solves there. So I would love to say with certainty, I would love to say, but I'm not saying it happens this week, but it is likely to, right? And if it doesn't happen this week, we have it done by next week. And you will be able to follow that progress, and you should make your decisions knowing that that has not happened yet, and I have not presented a certain date, right? Because that's what I'm saying unequivocally is, there is not a guarantee that happens this week, but when it does, you will be able to know. And I'm going to make sure that by locking all of these channels, no one else says otherwise, right? Because that's been the biggest propagation of misunderstanding, is people saying, hey, 24 hours, 48 hours. I mean, like, people are just making stuff up, right? And the rationale behind so is to encourage price action. And what we don't want is a bunch of price action that is unsupported by the fact, right? So I'm not saying it won't happen this week. I think it's likely if Togomi and their team move at the pace I expect them to, because there is not a lot of technical complexity involved in this token right now. There is just a lot of uncertainty involved. And so that's why understanding the presence of all of the initial positions and the initial equity, and then getting that audit done is it's the blocker, and that needs to precede those features. But because the burn is something that I could whip up in an hour, I'm not concerned with it. The 3% return to the liquidity pool, also not a concern, right? Also very straightforward out of the box. We just want to make sure that we are compatible with V3, and any of the underlying issues there don't follow and tag along into that 3%, right? Because if it's supposed to be 3% returns to liquidity, and let's say, for example, it also burns, that's significantly different than what we're intending, right? And then the redistribution or the reflection mechanism is just adjusting the variable from 2% to 3%. So each of those features are not complex. They are not unprecedented. So there are plenty of other tokens that have done this successfully, that are open source, that are active in the development community. Obviously, developer relationships and dev outreach is something I'm absolutely wanting to encourage in the course of this week. And I'm just repeating myself here, but the audit and the transparency of initial positions is absolutely what is required for us to build like a stable foundation to then begin onboarding of other resources. So I think we can go ahead and take some questions now.
So first, I know that there may be some of the actual admins and mods that have maybe a question. I know Vanquish, you said you had one. If you'd like to ask that now, and then we'll get into people who had their hands raised. We'll be going in order. So we'll just any admins or mods have any questions real quick?
You okay?
Standing by.
Yeah, question. So basically your position.
Yeah, I have a question.
All right, I'll chime
My
in as
question,
we're
I've
waiting
seen
for
this
Vanquish to come
in the
in.
chat a couple of
This
times
is
about
Lucky Knox.
coin market cap. There's
Just so
a
I
lot of
understand,
exchanges that we're on that
if
is
you
not
had to
updated in coin market
summarize
cap.
the
Coin
last
market cap also doesn't have
few
our
minutes here,
market cap
and
on there. So
I'm
what
hearing
is
two people talking simultaneously.
Yeah, you guys. Hold on.
I don't even know how the other person was talking.
Yeah, I think they unmuted themselves.
I don't hear the other person, so
That was actually really weird because we
Did you-
didn't select anyone yet. All right, so Lucky, go ahead.
did you not hear my question though? Should I repeat it?
Please.
Or yeah, Vegas, repeat
Okay.
yours, and then Vanquish will go to yours, and then we'll go off to the people on the side.
So my question was regarding coin market cap, the fact that a lot of our exchanges are not showing up on coin market cap yet, and the market cap is not updated, and the circulating supply is not updated on coin market cap.
Okay, great question. You can go on the link that I put on that Reddit post, and you can view all of CoinMarketCap's methodologies for the calculation and display of their metrics, right? Included in that documentation is the calculation and the sourcing of information that allows them to present that information, right? And the simple explanation is that they cannot calculate that unless we finish, we have an output of this audit that we can then connect to them. That's the simple version. So the verbose is, go and read through their documents and see how they source that information. Because for example, if we like a hypothetical, we burn half of circulation, right? And that goes to a dead wallet. CoinMarketCap does not use like a block explorer to go and look at all transactions and the addresses, the recipient addresses, and see whether that is a one directional function, right? Like they don't choose to implement those resources, right? So they are typically beholden to any type of external source of data. And this is basically true at a certain point of essentially any exchange or any other like display, right? So what they're going to be sourcing from, 99.9% of our liquidity is in Uniswap, right? So that means that any display of information is using Uniswap's API to determine the price pair and the liquidity, right? So like, once again, you can view that methodology on CoinMarketCap. I already expected this, and so I linked that on the Reddit post. So that's the verbose, and the simple is that will be something, one of a collection of many things that are easily resolved once we have the audit and once we fix some of the compatibility issues. Good question. Vanquish or Vegas, either you guys wanting to go next?
Vegas just asked his, so Vanquish.
Perfect.
Hey, Josh. Yeah, quick question. So just, I know we got a lot more since you've even, introduced yourself before. So from my understanding, you've been hired by Emax to kind of get everything organized, correct? Like, have you been hired by the founders to do this? And then is it like your responsibility? So you're kind of taking like a CEO role to kind of get everything organized, correct?
I'm gonna strong asterisk there, right? Not a title of CEO.
Yeah, not if you weren't
But
going to say a
yeah,
title,
I do
but
have
I
a
mean,
first party relationship with all of the original members. And we are going over, the documentation and legal obligations of each of our parties. That's not a process that I expedite unnecessarily, because this is an emergent industry, right? So there's a lot of potentially conflicting opinions, and the contractual language and legal documents that represents that has some back and forth, right? So, but yeah,
so
the
you
simple
answered
answer
my
is yes. I
question.
am contracted to do this. Correct.
Okay, yeah. So you have a first party relationship with the founder. So that was my next question. So
That's
you,
right.
you do
That's right.
you
Yep.
do have you to talk to them directly. So okay, yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah. So just consider me a consultant that accidentally is also the face. And
I
I have
gotcha.
fun doing this. Like I've been working for a long time on the preparation to come and start doing more streaming and more educational resources. So this has just happened to jump in prior to when I was ready to do that.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, so we're gonna go to questions. The first one is L. Well, it's a bunch of symbols, so we'll send him the invite and he'll ask his question.
Apparently, this entire time my OBS wasn't set up to get the audio from my AirPods. So some dozen or so people have been watching me mime.
Oh no.
All right, he did not pick up, so we are going to the next one. We're going to dismiss it. Tommy Bahama. You got to click accept to speak, and it'll bring you up here. And when you're done, we'll move you back down and onto DFox. So Tommy Bahama, if you're in here, you need to accept it.
As we're gonna be about like 15 seconds to accept that, so keep an eye
Yep,
out.
Tommy Bahama. DFox, sorry, he left already. So DFox, you're up. There it is. All right, so DFox, what do you got?
What's going on, gentlemen? Hey, appreciate sorry, I'm at the dog park. I appreciate all you guys' hard work. Thank you all. Just wanted to clarify, I sent something to Josh. Can you just kind of go lockdown? I know we had issues with some fake accounts. And I know we're kind of going after that blue check mark. Can you just clarify that for everyone? Because I got some questions on it.
So you kind of broke up, but
we
he's asking about the social media lock, or if you could further explain. Basically, we want to just
Verifying
make
it.
all our verified accounts have one place where you could go for all the resources to confirm it came from our account. Josh, I'll let you explain that more if there's really much else to be said there.
Yeah. So very, very simple here. The question is, what are we doing to address misinformation on social and streamline public announcements? So the timeline we're drawing is like today. So any platform that we cannot control unilaterally today, we disown, and then we're going to be making sure that each of those are connected to what amounts to a plugin or a script on the official website, the ethereumx.org. And it will display those feeds, right? So now the central source of information is the website. And then the secondary is that on any of the social platforms that we do control, then that information can be validated by looking at it also on the website.
Awesome.
Also, I think
Well, it's
there have been
also-
a bunch of people that have helped contribute to a blacklist of a bunch of the the fake accounts and the scam communities.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention that.
There is only so much that we can do. Yeah, there's only so much we can do there, other than have a blacklist and tell as many people as possible, hey, validate this information on the site, or validate it firsthand with a member. And we'll get to that. Like we have this ticketing system that I haven't had much of an opportunity to inspect yet. It seems that Cypher's done a really strong job at putting this all together on the fly. That's something that I absolutely want to make progress on this week. Is having a more effective like communication flow. So whether that's like I've had a lot of experience in like enterprise DevOps too. So ticket management and like whether it's like a chat bot or whatever function, we want to make sure that we're able to resolve tickets and issues. It just so happens that the majority of the vulnerabilities and compromises are going to stem from the same types of issues that like there is in crypto specifically, and in all of life. There is a personal responsibility that everyone also has to have, which is like if something has come into you, right? If someone calls you on the phone, like it's not hard to spoof a phone number, right? If someone calls you and asks for your PIN of your credit card, you don't give it to them, right? So if someone sends you a message, or if someone airdrops you tokens, whatever sends you a new link, like you don't need to be on multiple platforms to know what's going on. And I also empathize because there was an airdrop and we did have to transfer well before I was involved, so that had kind of primed a lot of novice and new community members to be more like receptive to those types of phishing attempts. So if there's
pre-fork, correct?
So
So
I
not to
wanna
kind
see
of go
what I
off
can do to
track because we
resolve that,
still
yeah.
got a lot of
Go ahead.
other questions.
I appreciate it,
Yeah,
gentlemen.
we'll leave it-
Thank you so much for everything.
No, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
apologize to cut you off. I mean, we'll keep it to just kind of their
problem.
points.
Perfect.
So
Thank you.
basically, they want a live feed of if there's ever an update, say on Twitter or anything. So if you scroll over to the left side, you see tweets. We make sure that all the information that's posted either in announcements or tweets here shows information from verified accounts only. So they want to implement something like that onto the main website where it's much easier to access. Some people aren't familiar with Discord. As you know, we have 90,000 holders. Well, we don't have 90,000 members here. So it's just going to be a central place to confirm information coming out and also confirm false information that those fake accounts will. So we'll post up a blacklist and show that.
Thanks,
So
sir.
we'll go to the next question. Beard one.
Yeah, take a D.
All right, Wonder, you are up. So ask your question.
All right. Well, I was just curious about you guys' expansion in the future. I mean, obviously, I know there's present issues now to deal with, but do you guys have a general aim as of to where you'll be as far as being accepted for payment options? Like, I know Fight was accepting everything. I'm not exactly up to tune on what that entails.
Okay, I want to see if I can answer this in a
I would kind of
in a
say just
useful
refer to
way.
the roadmap because it kind of lays out our objectives. I mean, yeah, the roadmap lists that we want to do Emax swap and have our own little exchange. We want an NFT market. We want to be utilized from different vendors to accept
Jed,
this.
I'm sorry, I got to cut you off here.
Yeah,
Any roadmap that's been pushed publicly, and for the Twitch viewers here, the question I heard from somebody in Discord, we're taking questions from Discord. The question is, what are some of the utilities, I suppose, or the interoperability with the real world in the not so distant future. And the way I had addressed this formerly was, hey, let's try and just narrow in on the short term and address all of the immediate concerns. And so then I want to see if I can wrap around this question, and I apologize to have to cut you off there, Jed, but the roadmap that's come out is a marketing tool that I don't even know if I've actually seen the one that has circulated the most. But I just want to be clear that now we're locking down how announcements are made, and that should not be a reference whatsoever to like a clear path and plan of attack. Now, with that said, we very well may be able to do all of those things and then some. My involvement in this project is absolutely one of like enormous positioning here. The value I see is how extensive and connected all of these team members and all of these early founders are, and that's represented by the massive amount of publicity, right? With that in mind, there is, there's a bunch of overlapping domains that present, exponential challenges when you look at any type of like real world integration, right? So I'll give you a story, and I won't name names, but we had a meeting with a team, and they own a very extensive network of crypto ATMs, and so then that was built on top of their existing business structure of just traditional ATMs, right? And they disclosed to us that somewhere in the shorter term, right? We'll just say next quarter, it is likely that they will be able to offer some type of like fiat on ramp as a merchant processor, where the proceeds are distributed to the vendor in crypto. So that's the type of bridge technology that just like some of Chainlink's offerings, those bridges are really, really important in making sure that all of those interactions stay within the realm of domain viability, right? So it's not technically impossible. It's not even technically difficult to have an ATM, where you can go and you can swipe your credit card and acquire crypto, right? But then with these organizations, they were telling me, the physical structure of their ATM for the bi-directional transactions. So meaning you can either go and buy Bitcoin or you can sell Bitcoin. And so in those situations where you can also withdraw, just fiat, you can withdraw cash from a debit card, right? They actually have to keep two separate cassettes. So the safe or the container for the cash, because of the relationship they're beholden to with the banks, right? So another sector where this is analogous is any type of money movement or merchant processing in the cannabis space, right? And so to this day, I have a number of friends that are very deep and high level in the like lobbying and specifically for like the tobacco industry, right? So I have a fair amount of advanced sentiment on the likelihood of certain things. I think that crypto is a massive potential vehicle for the movement and transparency of money in some of these spaces that traditionally have not had access to institutional finance. And so I know all of this is much of a wrapper to answer the question, which is that this roadmap, I would love to just be able to accomplish all of these things and more, but there are absolutely things, very, very large collections of solves that are required, which we as this team, as Ethereum Max, we are not responsible for. And so the best that we can do is remain apprised and remain connected with these different players. And I think the positioning of this token as an extension of our really broad team's relationships is where the biggest value is, right? So now, like one specific thing I've heard a lot, NFTs as tickets, right? This is something that I've seen a bunch of other projects approach, and there is, I think there's a test, right? A legal test, and it's basically how is any type of asset treated as a commodity or as a security, right? I think it starts with Hodge's test, maybe something like that. Anyway, it has to do with three characteristics. Without diving into that, if we can achieve an understanding of the the legal exposure that our team can overcome, then that is absolutely probably the first utility that we could easily construct and have a fair amount of early adoption in network. So I hope that does. I always getting long-winded here, but I hope that does as much as possible to address the next steps, Beard.
I mean, next steps are obviously the short-term stuff, tokenomics, more transparency, the team bios. That's short-term. As far as application goes, it is basically limitless. They've already been meeting with people, like he said. Really, the options are open. So that was pretty
I've
good.
seen rumors. I just, you guys are kind of first-hand source here.
Yeah. So as they're allowed to say that information, it's going to be posted. I know this has been a great place for an outlet because we're connected to the website, Instagram, and Twitter. So this is almost like one of the better spots currently until they can implement what they want to on the website for information. So as we find out, you'll find out. I think that's the best way to go about it right now. So thank you for the
100%.
question. Ben Holden, you are next. And if you have Ben Holden, that is great. Let's see. Ben Hodlin. And it went away. We got Hefe, the boss man. Hefe, you are a new member here. So thanks for joining us. All right, there he is. What's up, my man?
Thanks for having me. I just have two quick questions. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, is there any way that you can implement like some sort of like, I know in some chats when you join like Telegram, like you had to confirm that you're not a bot. Is there a way that you can also remove it so people can't post links that aren't mods? Because I noticed like people will post links to other Telegram chats to create FUD, and I think that kind of may like
Us as
derail us.
moderators. I know Josh is relatively new here, but we've been on top of it as best we can for the past, since we made this, it's been 3 weeks. We try and delete those links. I don't know if specifically we could block every link, but we always tell people keep it to Emax only. If you want to talk about something else, go to the off topic. There's also crypto talk if you really want to talk about another token. But Emax general, we'll keep it to Emax only. If we see anything else, we typically delete it. We'll
No,
also
on
warn
Telegram, not on Discord. Telegram.
Oh, Telegram, that's a whole different beast over there. So Telegram, it's so many members that feed is flying through nonstop. I will talk to other mods. I think Mystic, you may be listening here. I know you're a mod over there, so maybe we'll talk after this and see what sort of things can be done on there. I don't think it has as much
Just look
capability.
up. There's a bot that you can have set restrictions or permissions for all new members, and so yeah, that's easily implementable. Thank you for the suggestion. Discord guys, if you want to set up under the community section, if you want to set up a new channel for suggestions and then just make it like maybe slow mode 30 seconds or slow mode a minute, everybody please consider that many people have the same suggestions.
So in our ticket system, you can give suggestions. So there are support tickets and suggestion tickets that you can make, which as well, like we will respond there. I forwarded the information to some of the team members whenever they come up. Josh now has a better line of connection to them, and I will tag him in any suggestion that shows up. We also save all the transcripts for the suggestions. They're all filed away accordingly. We've been on top of that for weeks now. So hopefully we just have this open line of communication closer with the team, with Josh here, and those suggestions go higher. So like someone just opened a support ticket.
Okay, excellent. Hefe, you said that there was a second question you had?
Oh yeah, I know there's not a specific timeline on the burn, but how would that actually work? Because I mentioned you guys said you would find out how much liquidity the owners have and then lock it separately for like a specific time frame. So I think I was driving while I was listening to it, so I kind of missed that. Could you like give a
Sure.
short recap?
Yeah, and so you can go and click through to my Reddit post where I summarize a lot of these. We can call them fundamentals. And I'll just give a 15-second here. A burn is when you send a portion of an asset, like a token, to a wallet that's dead. And a dead wallet means that you've renounced ownership, and that can be proven on chain, right? So the more technical people are able to verify that, and then that type of verification is what we will prove through the audit.
All right, cool. Thanks for having me.
And
Definitely.
also, real quick before you go, Mystic sent me a message. They already have that bot implemented to keep other bots out. So, I mean, how well it works or how much it weeds out, I'm not too sure, but they do have that in place for Telegram.
Cool. Yeah, so
Cool.
probably
Thank
just
you.
inspect those permissions and see if link sharing is restricted, and go ahead and probably
Yeah, maybe just
deprovision that provision.
exactly, just disable link sharing. Mystic, I know you're here, so maybe you just want to give that a review. Maybe it'll help clear up some clutter there as well. So thanks, Hefe. You're going back into the crowd. And Mystic just said they will look into it. When Lambo, it's going to be in the future, I can tell you that. But accept this request so you could come and ask your question. When Lambo.
I'm gonna try and do a lightning round here.
Yeah, we're trying to get him in. So when Lambo, you got a few seconds. And Nikki J. 1990, Nikki J. You are next up. All right. Here you are.
Hey, hello.
Perfect. We could hear you and ask your question.
So I don't understand a thing what you guys have been like talking about. I was wondering if you could like sum it up in like layman's terms.
Ooh, this is fun. All right, let's see if I can call time at 30 seconds, right? So on your
All right,
mark.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds, Josh. No long-winded answers here. We want cliff notes.
Just
There we
don't
go.
get it. Like thanks.
Yeah, okay, 30 seconds. On your mark, get set. So about a month ago, a bunch of people got together and were like, hey, what if we make a crypto? And then they did it, and it blew up, and all kinds of
Oh,
people got involved. Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
like I'm involved, but like like it's gone down. So what's like where's Lambo?
So that's been a lot of whale manipulation as well as bots, which whale manipulation, deep pockets, we can't really prevent them from selling and causing a dip in which people panic sell and drive it down further. And those whales will rebuy back in for more or just as much and pull off the top. It's been a hard thing to mitigate, which is why they're implementing the 3%, 3%, 3%. It's a higher tax on those transactions. So hopefully it speeds up the process of when Lambo, and we could get there sooner, as well as bot mitigation. If a bot's detected, there is something that could be implemented for a higher tax on those.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
the simple version is we're doing a lot, and it takes a little time, and it would have been great if we had done these things earlier, but we're doing them now.
Cool. So how much longer?
I don't have a crystal ball right here, so there's really no answer to that. So if you have any specific questions that we could possibly truly answer about the token or anything like that, we'd appreciate it. If not, we are going to go on to the next person in line.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nagee.
All right, thanks for joining us. Youssef, you're up next. Yusuf. Nope, didn't join. Turkachu. Turk, you there? There it is. All right, we got one. So let's see. All right, we could hear you. So ask your question.
Awesome, cool. Truck now. Can y'all still hear me?
I'm afraid we're having some challenges here.
You guys still hear me?
Yeah. I don't know if you're breaking up, but try and ask your question. If not, if I can't hear you, I'm just gonna have to pull you down and maybe you get better service.
I was connected to my truck.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
All right, so I got a question. So I was been in the chat and pretty much just the first thing was it true that you guys said that the Emax gonna be going back down to the initial buy-ins?
Are you
Okay, when you
asking
say
like
going
cost wise?
down,
Yeah, I heard somebody when we first got on the chat that pretty much somebody said something that Emax would be going back down towards like where the initial like large purchase buy-ins would have been. So in that way, basically, like
We
it'll
cannot
help.
predict. Yeah, we can't predict the prices. I mean, if it continues to go down, then maybe you could buy more at a lower cost. But I really think that this is something that will be gradually increasing as long as we implement everything that Josh and the team is working on.
yeah, and I can hit this from another
So
angle. We're actively looking to buy back
I-
more that we lost control of early. So that's a simple answer there.
so now are the original developers still like actually act and
I
kind
can't
of
understand you.
forward? Did the other
Yeah.
developers step off and kind of push the not so much the pressure, but push the project more onto you guys, and now y'all accepting the large, I would say, the large portion of the future of it?
That's correct.
Okay, cool. So then I'm just honestly curious about like the bots wise and how, because I know that's the major thing that's keeping price down right now would be the increase of bots.
I'm going to point you, and I'll probably start doing this for the purposes of trying to get through more questions here. I'll point you to the post that I made in announcements. It's like, maybe a 5-10 minute read. You can just click through the Reddit post. I clearly address in like a 7-number list all of the most common mechanics that contribute to how price and price action is and action is determined. And I would strongly recommend that you take a little bit of time to go do that, because it will really help anchor your understanding of any of these movements in a way that is not efficient for me to try and explain now. So
We
I
will
mean,
also add this into our facts section because it seems like you're not the first person that asked about basically the price action of it. So we'll make sure we do pull it off that post and put it in facts.
Perfect, good to go. All right, I'll go ahead and let it go to the next person. Thanks,
All right,
fellas.
that's a
Sounds
lot.
good.
So
Thank you.
what we're going to do is we have some boosters in here as well. So we're going to pull up Pyro Dave. You've been waiting patiently. We're going to try and get some of the boosters up here. They contribute to the channel. So Pyro Dave, okay, just disappeared. So we got Jackie Channing Tatum. There you are.
Hello, I'm Jackie Channing Tatum, baby
What's
of
up?
Ann and Channing Tatum. My question is, it's sort of off topic. So I was really drunk. So I sent some Emax to the burn address to show loyalty and stuff. I don't know. I was drunk. So I was wondering can I get a t-shirt or something? That'd be great. Thanks. That's
100%.
We'll try and work something out. If it really went to the burn address and we could confirm that, then open a support ticket right now so we can look up your address
DM
and see
me.
what it is. So, yep.
awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot. Pyro Dave, you are back. So we will send you that invite again. All right. There we go. Work that time.
Morning. Yeah, I tried to hit the accept quick, but I didn't use this on my computer before, so I just put my hand down before you sent me the invite. So
That's not a problem.
one, Josh, you were in last night. Gabrielle was super helpful. I hope you had fun last night. Question about the distribution for the 3% times 3. So let's say you do a transaction of sending one bill from one wallet to another. does the total 9% come off of what you're sending? And the distribution, is it 3% of what each person is holding, or 3% of the transaction is then split upon each holder and then redistributed like that? Essentially, how
This
does
is
the
a
9%
fantastic
break down?
question. This is a fantastic question. This has come up in multiple conversations, and I can't say with confidence that there's consensus. So as it stands now, the quickest, simplest path is it for it to be, it's ubiquitous across all transactions, right? Because the long story short is, in a system, you cannot know whether an address or collection of addresses is necessarily a sell or a buy or just a transfer to someone else, right? So the closest we can do is we can know, hey, here are Uniswap's addresses. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply it to everything first, and then we're going to do some community polling once we've re-cemented that relationship, right? So once we have all of that standardized and there's a lot more open communication, and it's formatted properly, then we can do some polling, and then specifically with how does the reflection, it is proportional to the wallet holding. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, if you think about it, there's no other provable mechanic, right? So let's say, I've got like a 10 trillion Emax, right? And it's like, well, you only want to give 3% to like a sliding scale to smaller wallets. Well, then I can just take my 10 trillion and I can split it up between 1,000 wallets, right? So yeah, it does need to be proportional to the wallet holding. And then there is another question that I've brought up, and there's also not consensus here as to whether we're going to restrict, limit, or remove the time locked wallets. So like the founder wallets from that redistribution. That is a thing that has been discussed, and we should come to a conclusion on that this week.
Sounds good. Thanks for your answer. If your Instagram is not really you, I tagged you in a story for Emax, so some random person, it's not Josh, James is tagged.
It may or may not be me.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Good question.
Let's see the next person. All right. So there's no more boosters. Sound Abomination. Oh, your hand's been raised for a while. So I hope yeah, perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Ask away.
I just have one question. When is the white paper going to get released? There's a question everybody wants to know.
Okay, that is another good question. And I think what I want to start with is there are a lot of different definitions of how academic or how technical a white paper needs to be. The output of the
sorry
audit.
to cut you off, sir. It's just certain people might not even want to buy into this until they see a white paper. I'm just being honest.
My expectation is most people will be buying in once we have actually accomplished these functions and validated it on chain and it's certified with an audit, right? All of the price action over the weekend.
And I respect that.
Sound, you're right. A lot of people have been waiting for the white paper, and I've told people this all the time. I could write you an essay right now and pass that off as our white paper, but it's going to have no meaning. They need to put things into, and that's the thing. Yeah, so I've said this many times before in the past weeks when I've even gone live or in the chat. They need to wait until they have solid contracts in place to write this white paper with 100% facts. We don't want to leave it bland or anything like that. It's in progress, but they still need to wait for the fine details to release it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that very straight up answer.
Because you're right. A lot of people aren't going to buy in until they see that white paper. But what Josh is saying is that there's going to be a lot of other things to validate this token to confirm the validity of it.
By the way.
Yeah, but a lot of people, no problem. A lot of people do wait for that.
IG team actually shouted me out, and that made it more official to me because, it was just a lot. And I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for your time, and that's all I wanted to ask.
Yeah, thanks for being a part.
Thank you.
We got Original McCabe. Original McCabe. I don't think there's any other boosters here, so we were Original McCabe. If you are not here, nope, you're gone. Big Mike Tex. Big Mike. If you're there, all right, perfect.
I had a question on the DEX tools. I think last week a proxy popped up. Can you explain what are the reasons for the proxy and just kind of what's going on there?
Josh, I'm
Yeah,
sure
this is
you have
also
a more technical aspect to that one. So
yeah, this is easily addressed if you just go through some of the things that I've mentioned on the Reddit post. It's for upgradability, right? So if we want to go ahead and implement these new tokenomics, smart contracts and on-chain functions are by definition immutable, meaning they cannot be changed. So back in like 2018, 2019, this open source library called Open Zeppelin has a suite of different tools and functions to make it cheaper and quicker to make changes to some things like tokenomics. So that's what the proxy here is. It's a beacon. And then, all of that's is pretty easily understood if you want to go ahead and dive into some of the technicals.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Sure.
all right, thanks, Big Mike. Move to audience. Yamez, you are so Yamez is a long-term member in this group. He was like part of the first few days, so I hope he's around for his question. Yeah, you're always around. I'm surprised you're not hammering away on some metal. So we got to make it quick though. So ask your question and hopefully we can answer it.
A lot of it was kind of cleared, but I just want to kind of confirm. Reading the chat, it's just constant similar questions. I'm trying to field them, but you've already mentioned that you guys have basically reorganized your management. We'll say it that way for alacrity. With that, the other day or yesterday you had mentioned that there would be less fluff, more fact with the like Twitter posts and whatnot. And with that, the old dev team, like Steve, I think it was, had mentioned that he was going to be doing the FaceTime, like doxing face chat thing, where like reveal the devs at some point today. And with this chat, everybody was assuming that that's what this was, and somebody is throwing around that they're going to be doing that at 7:30. Do we have an actual time for that to get people to stop asking that question?
Well, it seems as it's 7:30 now. So if Steve gets on somewhere, let me go watch him, and maybe we have a conversation. Otherwise, we can keep going until, I don't know, 8.
Yeah, I know one of the other team members was in here earlier. He said there was no official time yet and he would let us know. Where he is right now, he doesn't have good service. I actually was just messaging him now. I'll see if he has an answer for that, and I'll just unmute and let everyone know.
And for the record, I just putting this out there to everybody in the chat who can't listen in or for whatever reason. I and Pyro Dave are both recording this.
Oh, perfect.
Will be, one of us will be getting it to somebody to upload or whatever.
Yeah, so myself or Cypher, I'll work with Cypher and we'll get that uploaded to a spot probably, let's see, probably under announcements. We'll just post it up in there.
Yeah, all right. I have tons of other questions, I'm sure, but plenty of time later. Move on, get off of me. You guys are doing great. Glad to have you here, Josh. Not Josh. Jed, you rock. I'll talk to you guys all later.
Thanks, Yamez.
Thanks, Yamez, and obviously you're always around. Thanks for being a big part of this. I mean, you've been here since the first few days, I think. I mean, the first week at least. So
Yeah.
if you have any questions, always reach out. You know that. And thanks for being a part.
Yeah, man.
Let me take you can put a timer on me here, like 45 seconds, a minute or so, and just see if I can compress further my recap, right? Um,
Oh,
A,
oh,
everyone has a personal
I accidentally sent an invite real quick. Sorry.
That's okay.
Mobile.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Josh. I hit the invite and I couldn't cancel it.
All good. All good.
Hello.
Go
Mobile.
ahead.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we could hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was just wondering, like, I love how you guys are taking control of this and really setting out a structure, and appreciate the transparency around it. One question I was just wondering, like, I read the post on Reddit, and that you were saying that you don't know what the distribution was taken at the start. So what happens if, for instance, it's a larger amount than expected? Like, is there a plan in place of how we overcome this obstacle? Because yeah, that's kind of where what I'm saying. Like, is there, like, okay, like, we hope that it's this, but if not, do we have a plan in place, of how we'll be able to get back where we, in the right direction?
Great question, or actually a collection of questions. I know where the floor is because of being here and seeing what some of the bigger wallets are, right? So I know that there is a floor. I'm not going to disclose that right now. It will be disclosed this week. Also, we have plans in place during these dips to buy back so that we can get to a position where we have enough capitalization and dominance where our locking and other different techniques will pretty much encounter and block all of the, or the majority of the adversarial transactions. So my expectation is that a lot of the sell-off is not necessarily whales that are just everyday crypto investors. I expect, and I think that I could eventually trace and prove that many of them are just selling off at peak when they bought in. They might have been able to source hundreds of trillions for just microscopic price really early on, and then because they already do bots, then they have pattern trading bots that just do Bollinger Bands or any other type of algorithmic trading. Because the same techniques to go and build the infrastructure to look for and acquire new tokens and new listings as the same infrastructure that lets you execute a lot of other artificial pattern trades, right? So anyway, yeah, I know where the floor is, and we're nowhere close to being sunk. And whenever things dip, we have a process of buying back some. So all of that will result in updates this week where I can show you guys on chain. Here's how much we hold. Here's what it's locked for, and that in addition to the new tokenomics, should do worlds for price action and stability.
Okay.
I mean, basically you have
Appreciate that.
founders. Basically, you have the founders and team members reinvesting even more money into this project, like their own personal money and capital. So just in order to, I don't know, make it more stable.
Yeah, I just wanted to, like, I just appreciate the transparency, and I wanted to gauge the commitment level of the team to, like, hey, listen, I get it. It blew up. Everybody's running to catch up. That's fine. And you bring in James, and he seems like he's very sensible and very logic, going by logic, not by emotions. So I really appreciate that. So the last kind of thing was just like what the commitment of the team to, hey, okay, listen, guys, we have something here. We realize the community is great. This is a great token. It's a great idea. So even if we're, even if we got behind the 8 ball a little bit, we're gonna push forward and take this across the goal line. That's kind of the thing that I'm looking for here.
Was there, thank you for your kind words. Also, I don't know if there was a follow-up question there.
Yeah, like that's really the question is just, you know, is that where it's at, like where basically, you know, we're, you know, whatever it is, whatever, once we do the audit, we find out, then we're moving forward. You know, and the team's dedicated.
You're cutting out a little there, but this is a great segue for me to take the opportunity to try and do a, you know, like a 30, 45-second recap. Right.
All right. So you do the recap, Mobile. I'm sorry you cut out right there. So we're going to move you to the audience, but we're going to let James do a recap. Hopefully it covers what you were leading into. So I think it's kind of a perfect time for it.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think we need a little. Yeah, thank you, Mobile. We need a little, like a 30-second soundbite, right? So we want to do a lot of things. Some of them are more complicated than others. The process of doing those things has trade-offs. We're good at deciding on those trade-offs, but it requires all of the original people to be on the same page. In addition, there's a ton of people talking and it's all noise. So we got to make sure that we say fewer things. The things we say are truthful. They're easily validated on chain because that is the idea of a blockchain. And the process of doing so means bringing in other technical resources like myself that know how to steer the ship in the middle of turbulence. How'd I do?
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. I was trying to catch up on some messages here. So
sure.
So we
All right, let's
got.
take a couple more and then let's try to wrap it up in the next 10, 15 minutes.
Yep. So we got John Kimball. John Kimball. Let's see. Nope. We're gonna go through these quick. If you don't pick up and join, Spillin, Spillane J, Spillin EJ. Spill. Nope. To the next one. Il Presidente. Il Presidente. There he is. All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Ask away.
Cool. Quick question. I won't take too much of your time. In regards to the Reddit post that Josh you wrote earlier, thank you for that. I'm mostly concerned about the number of tokens that the bots may have snagged at entry. I was wondering if there's any metrics or any idea that we could ballpark, something that maybe may get thrown out later, as to how many tokens these bots snagged and how many tokens they may have cashed out already, if that metric is available at all. I know that probably stems a lot of fear in our stakeholders, so that's just the question that I wanted to ask. That's it for me.
Sure, thank you.
To go through that, we'd have to basically go through every sell transaction and distinguish which ones were the bots and then find their buy transactions as well.
And that's what I was asking in the general. Is there anything other than that that we'd have to go through besides that fine-tooth comb? Maybe that you had something already. So that was it for me.
The plan is to work backwards from how much we can prove that we control this week, right? And then what we cannot prove that we control this week must be float. And that float is like both you guys and adversaries. But my thought is, like, many people that are still here, you know, have maybe been through this before, and you're not as beholden to FUD as, you know, the pattern traders. So also speaking as if, you know, I was the adversary, right? If I was running a pattern bot and I was able to acquire 10, 15, 20%, and I know that there's a massive amount of promotion in advance of a significant event, so the weekend of the fight, I would absolutely, as the adversary, sell off during that hype, right? So my strong expectation, and you should just call it a guess, is that like a lot of that has probably already sold off, because prior to me getting involved and all of us really getting granular and reorganized, prior to us doing that, there wasn't a lot of expectation that we would make it through the weekend, right? So I'd like to think we have a much stronger trajectory now, and we weeded out a lot of that, but we'll have much more precise information that should be provable throughout the course of this week, and you can stay tuned for that.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. You have a good night.
You too.
All right. We got Baby Doll Mia. There we
Come on,
go.
guys.
What's going on? Ask your question.
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned. Like I'm sure a lot of people are. I've got about I got actually 215K invested with you guys, and I'm down to about 44,000 now. I was on your Instagram page, and they blocked me for mentioning it. So I just want to be able to go to sleep at night. I'm not worried about it taking time. I just want to know that this is not a scam.
100% not a scam. I mean, Josh will know logistics and what's coming ahead, and even from the past, the amount that's been invested into this, plus mutual interest of the team itself as well as the holders. Me personally, my own opinion, it will go up. Again, I can't.
Not financial advice.
Yeah, not financial advice. I'm
I
not
mean,
an
listen,
advisor.
I got to live and die with it now.
Yeah, and
I'm
honestly,
down
I mean,
175,000.
I would
I'm
honestly,
in.
I would keep holding. And my personal opinion, and it's only my opinion and only, is that it will be going up. And as we lock in more contracts and everything to come up in the future, it'll show that. It's tough to give a peace of mind to someone who is down, but everything we put out is going to be information to solidify this.
Yep. And I want to say, thanks for holding. I know that it's difficult because there's been a lot of uncertainty here. I'd like to think I've done everything within my means, and by extension, the team bringing me in, everything within their means to try and take this past the weekend. So if you go and look at the last 2 hours of charts, big sell off in advance of me maybe not showing up, and then hey, recovery, right? So the fact that it is Monday evening, and Bitcoin week is over, the fight's finished, and we still have enormous volume and presence, gives me a lot of confidence to involve myself in this project, right? And I don't want to talk about myself too much, but I think that this is a really undervalued position here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be involved, right? And so then the amount that I'm going to prove to you guys that I have locked will demonstrate the confidence that I have in remaining a part of this project and jumping on here and investing time. So I'm in it with you, bro, and I appreciate you here. So let's just keep going, right?
All right. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm in it. I'm in it to the end. So thanks a lot. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, no problem. Take care.
All right. Yeah.
We got Oreos. Oreos, are you there? This is a non-member. It's a visitor. So, there we go.
Hear me?
Yes, we can. And I'd suggest joining the channel as well. It says
That earlier. Someone on me, and then I got the notification. Like I was literally leaving this thing. I got the notification y'all invited me. I'm pretty sure my question was answered though. It was that Il Presidente guy already. But
okay. Yeah, no, I'm glad your question got answered. We're just going to be moving on to the next one if you want to hang out and listen to more. So hopefully,
I think that you guys had a booster kept raising his hand, Dr. Emax Bloom, and you guys didn't answer him. And you were
no,
guys
before I didn't. So my list, if he's showing up on the bottom, every once in a while I'll scroll down, so I didn't see it. So I don't know if Doctor's still. Yeah, Doctor, you're still in here. So if you have a question about this, raise your hand again. Thanks again, Oreo. Hopefully you're part of the community and you're holding with us.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about buying some, but I was trying to listen in on all that. Decide.
Yeah, no problem. So if you have any questions, always reach out. I suggest joining the channel. You'll get all sorts of information and postings that as they come out. So thanks a lot, and moving you to the audience. Let's see if any boosters. I don't know if it's cut off. I do not see any boosters right now. So Nessa, there we go.
You hear?
Yes, we can.
Oh.
Oh, there. Yep, there you
Hello?
go.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there you go.
Okay, sorry. So I was just questioning, in I can't remember when it was, but the last AMA on the Telegram, it was mentioned that I think it was like in the next 10 days, there would be more information about some major exchanges that I guess Emax would be available on to be bought directly. So not using Uniswap, but just through fiat. Specifically, I guess like American exchanges. I was just wondering if there were any updates on that, or if there's a timeline, or I know there's pressing issues as well, but yeah.
Hey, Nessa. So I can't speak to the contents of anything that's been on Telegram. I didn't even join that yet because reasons, right? What I will say is that it is, once we have Uniswap v3, that's a strong gateway to listing in other platforms. But it would be cart before the horse if we are going out of our way to try and list in other places before we have price stability and before we have an understanding of the founder's lock, right? Because then we don't want to be in a situation where we overcommit or overcontribute liquidity to an exchange or a platform and then have to withdraw that liquidity in order to lock it in a vesting period, right? So absolutely a plan, not super difficult. And yeah, like look for updates on that this week after the audit.
No, thank you so much. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, real quick, when it comes to exchanges, even if there was word from the team that we got approved by an exchange or something like that, that information cannot be released. Typically, there's non-disclosure agreements with exchanges in releasing future listings sometimes. Josh, maybe you know more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of compliance stuff there, right? Any type of announcement would have to be pre-approved. So like saying that, hey, we're approved to be listed and hey, we are listed are not synonymous, right? So the announcement that we can make is obviously we are listed. And leading up to that, there is some regulation there depending on the type of platform and exchange. So as it stands, it is only Uniswap right now. I think there's like 10K liquidity in Sushi, which I wouldn't touch. So it's Uniswap right now, and let's just address these things as a part of like a broader roadmap and feature set that will all be coming from an official designated source, and you can view that on the website.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. And we got PHX Spawn. PHX Spawn, if you're here, accept the invite to the chat to ask your question. Fix. PHX Spawn, if you're there. Think so. We might. Oh, you almost lost it right there. I don't hear your microphone yet.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry, I didn't
There
realize
it
the
is.
notification
Yep.
popped up at the top of
Nope,
the screen.
you're good.
All right, couple of quick things. Josh, if you need any help with Twitch or anything like that, I do all that, so feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Second big thing is one of the things I noticed is had the release about the whales. And as soon as that notification came out, I noticed there were a lot of sales. So I'm wondering if sometimes giving out the info before you have something in place is more of a detriment than it is a help. I know that's probably part of what's going to be fixed with you taking over the majority of the social media.
Correct. Yeah, that would be umbrellaed under that. We're gonna much fewer releases and announcements and much more detail and signal in those announcements.
I would have to say the only other kind of statement that I would have to say is I do realize that this is a newer token. And for all those that are listening, it's only a few weeks old. You guys have done a ton to try to get things rolling. I know we had that major spike, and yeah, things are going to level out a little bit, but I see a lot of great things coming to this token. So keep up the good work, guys, and I'll be sticking around.